All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, depending on where you're dialing in and joining us from. And welcome to our first ever product update session on the Supermetrics community. Super happy to be here chatting to you guys. One thing that would be pretty cool to see. I see a couple people are already joining in, so maybe we can get some chat going immediately. You should see some kind of chat controls and Q&A controls on the right-hand side of your screen. Type in chat just where you're dialing in from. We love to see where people are tuning in from. So if you have some time, do that, and we can go ahead and get started from there. Hey, Helsinki, Valter's dialing in from Helsinki, Finland. I think you're literally across the hall from here. Finland, Berlin, cool. Okay, UK, we have a few different countries here represented. That's great. Love to have an international audience. Germany, is Berlin and Germany in general popping for the Euros? It's been fun to watch the games. It seems like a pretty good atmosphere. Montreal, Switzerland, Lithuania, excellent. All right, but let's get into it. And first and foremost, before we get into any of the agenda today, I just want to introduce myself and our amazing co-speaker here as well. So my name is Alex. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Supermetrics. Been at the company for almost 3 years now. Do everything related to go-to-market, from go-to-market strategy, value props, messaging, lots of product related nitty-gritty stuff, and here today to talk about some of the new releases from Supermetrics. And before we get into that, Valter, maybe you want to share a few words about yourself as well.
Sure. I was just looking at my own face in the video preview and the face in this picture, and gosh, I haven't aged gracefully in a couple of years. I'm Walter. I'm a director of product here at Supermetrics. Under my remit is the platform and applications group, which deals with basically everything except getting data into the platform. So we have a slew of cool announcements and releases to go through today, but I'll hand it back to Alex to kick us off with the agenda.
Sounds good, and thanks for hopping on the call, Walter. It's really cool to have you here to share some insights. So, really quickly on the agenda for today. So we've split the agenda into 3 distinct sections. So we're going to be talking about data in, so how you actually get data into Supermetrics. The one thing that Walter mentioned that he doesn't own, but we'll be talking about today as well. Then we're going to talk about platform and data apps. That's a new and exciting area for Supermetrics, a developing area where we're building more stuff into the core platform that we offer. And then last but not least, some exciting announcements on data exports and kind of how new use cases on getting data out of Supermetrics. We have Q&A here, but depending on how this goes in terms of timing, we have a lot of content to cover and a lot of things to show you. We're going to be walking through a couple protos, a couple demos. We may or may not have time for dedicated Q&A at the end. So at any point, if you see anything on the screen that you're particularly interested in, particularly want to know more about or ask a question on, use the Q&A tab in your chat controls there. We'll be monitoring that, and hopefully we can pick some questions up as we go. All right, but then let's get into it, and we can start off with data in. And of course, when we talk about data in and getting data into Supermetrics and into those reporting tools you know and love, we need to talk about the data source connectors. Most of you who have been using Supermetrics for a long time know us for the data sources that we offer. We are up to, I believe, over 150 natively pre-built connectors that allow you to pull data directly from reporting APIs into reporting tools like Google Sheets, Looker Studio, etc. So here on the screen, you see a bunch of essentially all the connectors that we have released during Q2 or in the beginning of the year. So we're continuing to invest into broader and deeper data source integrations, pre-built data source integrations as well. One thing that's particularly apparent here, and one thing that we're going to be investing a lot more into in the future as well, is first-party data sources. So going deeper into e-commerce connectors, going deeper into CRM platforms in terms of sources to get data into Supermetrics, because that's been primarily what the customers have been asking for recently. But of course, we will continue to develop paid media, analytics, social media, all those other data source categories as well. But this is just a quick overview of some of the data sources that we have released recently, and obviously we will continue to develop those even further. But pre-built data sources is just one way to get data in. And actually, next, what we want to talk about is a kind of new approach from a Supermetrics point of view, which is using file import and actually importing files of data through. And for that, Valter, I think you want to show us a little something.
Yeah, sure. So again, let's jump to the deck again real quickly here. So we are currently in a beta phase of something that we like to call file import internally. If you've ever worked with data, you've probably been in a situation where you can get data from Facebook ads really nicely, from Google Analytics very nicely. But then you'll have that one ERP system that doesn't play nice with anything, that doesn't have APIs, for example. So we've been hard at work in building a system where you can actually upload flat file CSVs, for example, into our system, or automate email reroutings to our system so that we can get unstructured data as well from any platform. So as an example, you would have a ERP system, for example, where you can get a email dump or a CSV dump, and you could automate a pipeline sending that data to an email address at Supermetrics. We would then extract the data into a kind of semantic format, which you can then use in reporting, in data blending, create custom fields out of the fields, you name the use case. So this is really kind of our first step into getting holistic data from all platforms and making it a little bit easier to unlock all sorts of new use cases. The file import is going to support a flat file upload. So you can export a file and you can upload it manually. No one wants to do that, but it's an option. Then you can automate the email sendings or email extractions, or you can also automate, for example, placing a file in a S3 bucket, for example, which we periodically go and fetch. So this really is going to be quite cool in the terms of all sorts of use cases that it unlocks. I'm going to show you a quick prototype of how it's going to look like. So let me just check so I get the borders away here. There we go. So when you land on the file import page on the hub, you'll be able to just drag and drop a file. We don't have a separate preview step for the email sending, but you'll be able to send it to an email or define the bucket where that file lives. But I'm going to walk you through the manual upload here. So we drag a file, takes a bit of a moment, and then we'll get a preview of how that file looks like. There's a couple of data hygiene toggles on this page already, where you can define where the header row is, get rid of the header row, or define where the data starts if you have some metadata at the top of the file, and you'll be able to kind of just verify that everything looks correct. On the next screen, you'll be able to actually look at the data and decide what the data type is. So if you remember from the file that I just showed you very briefly, there was a column called date, which was in column 1. The data type here is obviously date, and then we can further define what the format is. So year, month, date, for example. This helps to kind of clear up the data already at this stage. We can rename the fields as well. So if we want to rename, for example, region into area or something, that's completely fine. And then we can also go in here and do some even more advanced things like writing regex or finding certain substrings, replacing with. You can use obviously custom fields after saving your file import to do more transformations, but this is just a quick way of doing quick changes to the file. So on this page, if we have a email upload, we can send emails to this email address, and then we can decide how we want to treat that email. So do we want to download attachments or follow links? After we've kind of done our first file import, we can then decide how do we want to update the data with each incoming file. So do we want to append and deduplicate, append only, full refresh? Depends on the data, right? And that's it. So that's how you set up a file import in Supermetrics. So file import is currently in a beta stage. So if this is something that interests you, there should be a poll in a second if you'd like to learn more. We're actively looking for beta customers for this at the moment. Cool. So going forward to the platform and data application side. So I'll walk you through a couple of quality of life features first in the Supermetrics Hub, and then we're going to go into destinations. We're going to go into custom fields, etc. But let's start here. There's a bunch of quality of life improvements that we've done to the Hub. If you haven't visited the Hub, it's at hub.supermetrics.com. So if you have a subscription to Supermetrics or even a trial, you can log in there. On the Hub, you can do all sorts of things like managing which users have access to your environment, what data sources you have connected, and now you can also understand, control, and share your Supermetrics usage. Roughly a month ago, we released our first version of a usage page where we can show trends, for example, in data source usage, identify which users actually engage with the platform. So if you have a larger team, you can identify who is the power user of Supermetrics and who hasn't understood the platform, for example, just yet. There is a call out on this page to give us feedback on the content. We are all learning, obviously, so this is a relatively new thing for us. So go check it out, give us feedback, and we'll continue to improve it and give you more data. The next part is the contextual homepage in the Supermetrics platform. So again, when you log into hub.supermetrics.com, on the first page, you will start finding contextual cards that'll give you all sorts of information based on where you currently are in your usage, right? So if you just started, this page will start highlighting what you most likely would like to do next based on your previous history. If you're a more seasoned user, it'll give you some more, let's say, information into your query performance over time or what your data warehouse success rate has been. And we're going to try to show you relevant news and insights in the future here as well. Right now, the news and updates sections are relatively not static. Not static is not the right word, but not personalized, let's say. But we're going to go into that later in the year as well. So depending on what you've been interested in, what you've been using, we would try to give you the most relevant information here. And last but not least, on the quality of life side of things, is something that we like to call data source account tagging. So if you're anything like me, when you log into any data source, you'll have a long list of accounts. Keeping track of those and making sure that you always run a query to X accounts that are relevant for you has been a bit of a pain previously. So we've actually introduced something called tagging, which allows me to create a tag and assign it to X amount of accounts, which I can then easily use in whatever platform I want. So I'm going to give you a bit of a demo on how that works as well. We love live demos here at Supermetrics, even though it's always a little bit risky. But here is hub.supermetrics.com. So if I navigate to the data sources panel, I'll find something called account management next to data sources and connections. If you try to look for this now yourself, you won't find it. It's still behind a flag. So if this is something that's interesting, something that you'd like to try out yourself, again, please reach out. Happy to have you test this. On the account management tab, I'll be able to select my data source. So here I have a connection to Google Analytics 4, for example, under my login. And here I'll see a list of accounts. And if you have to select through this list every time you make a query, it is laborious. It is unnecessarily complicated. So for example, we have environments here called Payment Flow 2021 for GA4 staging and development. Let's just assume for the sake of testing, something happened with my screen. Just a sec.
Live demos. You jinxed it. You jinxed it. I thought you were going to jinx it.
Yeah, it wasn't a demo problem. It was something with my computer. It's not the product. I promise you. So here, if I want to consider, if I want to query these 3 accounts consistently and over time, I can select all three of them and add a tag. Let's call the tag, for example, purchasing. I think that's a good test. You can now see that these have been tagged by purchasing, and from a organizational perspective, if I just want to find these in the future, I can do this. I can also add this purchasing tag across multiple different data sources as well. And now when I go into a product or a destination, let's go into Google Sheets and let's just launch the sidebar, and I'll show you how this actually works. Cue elevator music. There is a reason why I didn't open this beforehand, because I want the kind of slight demo effect when doing this. So when I open up the side panel, I'll be able to create a new query. Again, I'll select Google Analytics 4, which is the same connection that I was using upstairs. When I select the accounts, I can use all accounts, or I can go through this list manually. You'll see the payment flow ones here as well. But then at the bottom, I can see purchasing. So this actually pre-fills those three accounts. And when I run a query to it, it'll fetch data from all three accounts. Now, the good thing about how this has been built is that if I change this in the future, it won't break my setup. So if I add, for example, this Supermetrics for PowerBI GA4, let's add purchasing to this one as well. The next time that query runs, I'll actually get data from all four accounts. So it is scalable in the sense that you can change these over time, and you can remove them over time as well. But yeah, as I mentioned, this is currently in beta. So if this is interesting, please let us know. Happy to have people test this. All right, going into the next step. That's Aleks.
Very cool. Yeah, I can take back the screen. Thanks, Valter. I honestly can't believe that the demo, that you had no demo effects there. Let's see when we get to my demo what happens. But this is what we like to do. We like to live dangerous. So next up, let's talk about another platform area that we call Supermetrics Storage. And now some of you who have been with Supermetrics for a little longer may have already heard of Supermetrics Storage. This is something we released into beta, I think it was late last year, and only kind of generally released early this year. So it has been around for in general availability for a couple of months, but not accessible to all just yet. But what is Supermetrics Storage? So Supermetrics Storage is essentially a way for people using Supermetrics to take ownership and own and store large amounts of historical data without necessarily having to have a data warehouse. So typically, if you wanted to do large-scale year-on-year reports, or large-scale trend analysis, or predictive analysis, or even stuff like MMM, you would need to have a data warehouse in place, because those require large volumes of data. But not everybody has the resources or the technical expertise to run and manage one. So what we've done at Supermetrics is we've essentially built out this type of storage layer, which allows you to reap those benefits without having to invest into or assume the costs of running a data warehouse, or having to have the technical expertise necessarily internally. What it does is it allows you to essentially connect your marketing data to the Supermetrics storage layer, and then use that storage layer to power reports in Looker Studio, Google Sheets, Power BI, as opposed to connecting directly to the reporting API, which is what most of our data source connectors or pre-built data source connectors do. What that does is a bunch of stuff. It means that reports load faster, they can handle larger volumes of data, they don't get broken. Like if, say, Facebook ads or Meta ads or Google ads had an unexpected outage with their reporting APIs, you'd still be able to get data into your reports from Supermetrics Storage, because it's not calling directly from the reporting API. And again, of course, it allows you to start building large-scale historical databases of information and data, so that you can build more advanced analytics in the future. Now, the great thing about Supermetrics Storage is that it's completely opt-in. So if you, for example, prefer to pull data directly from the reporting API, that is still definitely fine. And some people prefer that because they don't necessarily want data sitting in any kind of intermittent storage. So it's completely opt-in, and you can either decide to run some of your reports through storage, all of your reports through storage, or none at all. The choice is essentially yours. But I'll also try and do a quick run through of what this looks like for a customer. So let me start presenting, and actually I need to find the correct tab now. So I'm going to load up my instance of Supermetrics Hub. Again, if you're a Supermetrics customer, you all have access to this, even with a trial license. You can come in here, play around, see all of those things that Valter was just showing when he walked through the slides. But if we look at storage specifically, here's what I do. So if you're a storage customer, you'd come in here, you'd go to storage, and you'd go to storage destinations. Now, if you are a storage customer, you would see Supermetrics Storage pre-populated here. This is not something you need to worry about. This is something our team sets up for you. It's kind of done completely in the back end, so you don't need to worry about connecting any kind of extra storage technology. It's just there for you. If you were a first-time storage user, what you would have to do at this stage is run an initial transfer, which is similar to essentially moving Facebook ads data or any marketing data source data into a spreadsheet or dashboard. So I'd go into storage, I'd go into transfers. You can see I already have a Facebook ads transfer running, so I don't need to build a new one for the purpose of this demo. But if I didn't have anything, I just click on new transfer, select the data source that I want to get data in from, for example, Facebook ads, and then it's just following a couple easy steps, point and click instructions here, like select the destination. You don't need to worry about that because it's already pre-selected. The frequency, stuff like accounts you want to use, the normal stuff you would do if you were setting up a query, for example, into a Google Sheet. So now once that's done, and once you have data in Supermetrics Storage, you can then use that in any of the reporting tools you use with Supermetrics as you would use any other data source. So for example, I won't build anything from scratch here because that would take too long, but I will share this. I have a pre-made report here with some data that's coming in from storage, as well as coming in from a live connection, this data source API. And one pretty striking difference is that when I go in here, and this is, by the way, this is just a Looker Studio dashboard and could be built in the standard way you would build any Looker Studio dashboard or spreadsheet. So when I go in here and I start loading the data, you can see that the load speed is quite different. It comes in from storage almost immediately. You can see the little bar at the top running. So it's calling the API now for the rest of the data. And the reason it takes longer for it to come from the reporting API, there it comes in. The reason it takes longer is because when you open your Looker Studio dashboard or run a query in Google Sheets, for example, it actually calls the reporting API and then brings the data back in. What it's doing with storage is it's actually going to Supermetrics Storage, which is optimized for calling data into a spreadsheet or a dashboard, so it comes in much quicker. Now, again, load speed is just one thing. Most of you who use Looker Studio know that if you have a really heavy, complex dashboard, it could take some time to load. So this stuff definitely does help with that. But the bigger benefits are that you can store that longer historical range of data. Most data sources actually expire your data at some point. Not all, but most of them expire. A very good example is, for example, Instagram stories data, which expires in 24 hours. So with storage, you can actually start putting that into a storage layer and then call that into a Looker Studio dashboard whenever you want to do, day on day or month on month or year on year reporting even. And one other really cool thing is that any of these kind of large scale, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about MMM or MTA or some kind of more advanced analytics applications in the future. Most of those require large volumes of historical data. And to do that, it's beneficial to start storing data now. Like even if you don't plan to invest into MMM for the next year or even 2 years, it makes sense to start storing data now so that once you're ready, you have that historical repository and then you can start executing it on it in the future. Good. But yeah, that was Supermetrics Storage in a nutshell. And this is another one of those things that this is actually available now. If it's something that interests you and you want to use to power your reports, feel free to reach out. There's a lot of information on storage on our website as well. All right. And then, Valter, I think it's back to you for some more platform updates.
Yes, sir. Jumping back to the slides here for a bit. Actually, this section is only about slides. So we're going to walk through a couple of updates on the data transformation side. So data transformation at Supermetrics today is a product called Custom Fields and a product called Data Blending. So whereas Custom Fields focuses on modifying and creating new fields based on fields you already have in data sources, Data Blending then again focuses today on unioning that data and in the future also joining that data with other data sources. But we have a couple of exciting updates. The first one being text-based function previews in custom fields. So if you've ever tried to split text and pick apart, for example, using regex, it is unnecessarily complicated. On the custom fields interface, we have quite a lot of functions that allow you to manipulate text so that you can get it into the format that you want. Often there's a lot of trailing and lagging information like region, like campaign, like segment, etc. when it comes to campaign data. So we've really tried to make this as user-friendly as possible. So now when you select a function that somehow modifies the text, you'll actually be able to see a live preview at the bottom of the screen. So in the screenshot that's here on the right-hand side, I split text and pick apart, and then on the preview, you'll be able to see what the sample input is, and you can modify that, obviously, and then get a result back. So it really makes it easy to do text manipulation when using custom fields. The next one on custom fields, everyone speaks about AI. We're also going to add AI here and there where it's actually providing value. The first one is powering Supermetrics custom fields with AI, right? Here, the use case is quite clear. So when we have a product like custom fields, we'll be able to do a lot of different functions and conditional functions as well based on the fields. We've added something called transform with AI prompt here, where you'll actually be able to define your own prompt and what the input value is. So for example, if you take campaign name from a, let's say, data source like Facebook ads, for example, you can easily clean that data up by saying something like replace the hyphens in this campaign name with underscore, and it'll just do the heavy lifting for you. Or enriching the data somehow. So describe this traffic source in a few words, or what is the sentiment of this comment? So the use cases are quite endless when it comes to using AI with custom fields. But this is definitely kind of one of those points where using a little bit of AI can actually provide quite a lot of scalable value. And when using custom fields, you always kind of create a new field. So this is non-destructive. Now, when I said that using custom fields with AI will result in multiple different use cases, the next step here is quite clear, right? So if there's a lot of use cases, we also need to provide templated use cases. So we've rolled this out already. There's a couple of first use cases when it comes to custom fields. The first one is currency conversion. Want to make that as simple, as straightforward as possible, because everyone who deals with money, and especially when it comes to conversion as money, should be 2 clicks, not more. Similarly, extracting part of the text and changing date format. I think those are use cases that I come up with every single day. But we're going to expand on the templates depending on how our customers are using the product, what problems they are trying to solve with it, and especially with the AI prompts. This is where we can definitely get quite creative as well.
Yeah, on the custom fields AI point, there's actually a question from Carlos that came in the chat, which we can probably pick up quickly. One interesting thing, for example, when we were looking at this internally, is a use case from a APAC-based customer of ours who was running. They're running. Or sorry, it was a global customer, but it was an APAC region, and they were running a bunch of advertising that was in local languages, like written in Japanese or Korean. And globally, they had to be able to kind of understand what's going on with or what this ad is about. So they actually built a custom field that used AI to translate those foreign copies into English so that they could look at it on a global level. So basically, the AI can be used to manipulate and translate text like that. From a UI standpoint, it is in English, but the AI feature does work with multiple languages as well.
That's a great call out. Thanks for taking that, Alex, in line.
And on that as well, like in general with the custom fields, I think there's another poll that just went up. If you want, this is behind a beta tag, so if you want access to that, just let us know. We're happy to set you up with it, and we do want testers for this feature as well, because with anything AI, there's so many use cases for it that like the sky's the limit, and we want to know what you guys will use it for. Cool.
Also, I think since we're addressing questions in the chat now live as well, we might as well also address the next one by Bram. So there's a question about marketing mix modeling and how that factors into plans. I think when it comes to marketing mix modeling, we partnered up with a couple of interesting companies that do the models, whereas we provide the data. We currently are not working on building our own marketing mix modeling algorithms because there are so many companies in the world that does it. But definitely good to connect on if any of our partners could help with that.
Yep, and that's also kind of related to what we're going to be talking about. Like, we're going to be talking about getting data out of Supermetrics towards the end, and we're going to start with one use case, but it could be that MMM is a more robust feature use case for that. But we'll get to that in just a second as well. All right, a couple updates on our Google Sheets and Power BI reporting destinations. So first of all, let's talk quickly about Google Sheets. Those of you who have been with us for a long time and have been using Google Sheets will have interacted with the Google Sheets sidebar in one way or another. Yeah, even saw Valter interact with it just a minute ago. Now, depending on how long you've used Supermetrics, it may have looked wildly different to what you see on the screen right now. But basically, earlier this year, we released a kind of complete, well, not complete, but major overhaul to the Google Sheets reporting or the Google Sheets sidebar interface. The idea was to not only give it a cleaner look and feel, but also really emphasize on giving users quick access to the workflows that make sense. So for example, you can still click on start a query from scratch and go into the normal query building flow that you're used to. But if you're not exactly sure what you want to look at, depending on the data source that you've connected, we can also now suggest query templates to you. We can make sure that in just a couple clicks, you can have something meaningful to look at on your spreadsheet. We've also built a much more easy to use alerting system. You've always been able to send out notifications via email from the Google Sheets sidebar, but now we've built that out. You can now hook those up to Slack. You can hook those, of course, up to your email, and basically be notified when there are any discrepancies. When maybe your budget is over pace or way under pacing, you can get alerted. If you have an abnormally large spike in conversions, you can be alerted to go and take a look at and see what's going on. So again, just building better access to and quicker access to the workflows that matter to people in the Google Sheets sidebar. And then if we move on to Power BI, unless Valter, you wanted to add something on Google Sheets still?
Yeah, actually, maybe two quick call outs. So on the alerting side, Good to note that the email alerts, most platforms actually support those. So we have Slack as a kind of pre-built integration, but you can also send email alerts to, for example, Microsoft Teams. So it does work really well with different environments to get the alerts where you actually will see and interact with them. And then I think a good call out on the right-hand side, the reporting insights. We've actually made it super simple now to construct a query, get the data, and then get insights on the back of that data. So things like, tell me which of these results are my top 3 performing campaigns for cost per click in the last 7 days, for example. So again, this little injection of an AI large language model in between. So when you do a query, we actually get the data, we send it to the model, and you can get insights already in the sheet. So just a couple of small call-outs here.
Good stuff. Then on to Power BI, which is the other kind of reporting destination that we wanted to talk about. So Power BI is a tool we've offered an integration for actually a long time. Some of you may have used Supermetrics for Power BI with Supermetrics API back in the day. It was one of the more popular use cases for Supermetrics API, but now we took that a step further. We built out a very kind of tailor-made integration and application for Power BI. That came complete with a new report builder inside Supermetrics Hub. So again, that same place me and Valter have been interacting with throughout this webinar. You can go in there, build out reports, and then kick those over to Power BI. It's now also officially certified by Microsoft, which means that it can be found directly inside the app marketplace and app listings inside Power BI. So if you are a Power BI user, you can just go and click on, I believe it's get data, and search for Supermetrics in the list, and you'll be able to hook it up to your Supermetrics account really easy. So the great thing about this is because it's now certified and because it's kind of built with those marketer-friendly tools, I'd say, for that Supermetrics is known for. It's very easy to configure, very easy to set up. You don't necessarily need to get IT teams involved, which can be a pain when we're talking about Power BI, because some of those systems require a bit of manual setup. This is plug and play, very easy to get started with, very easy to use, and that's now also officially listed in the destinations marketplace for Supermetrics. So go check it out if you're a Power BI user. Take it for a spin. Let us know what you think and how we can make it even better.
Great stuff. So a question in the chat: when are we going to build Tableau?
So, but that's a great question. So Tableau. For all of you Tableau users, there's an interesting update. We didn't plan to have this in the session, but I might as well wing it. Tableau is also a BI tool that people have used with Supermetrics API, but the technology that's used for us to pipe data into Tableau is being deprecated by Tableau or by Salesforce. So we'll no longer be able to use that channel. That said, Supermetrics Storage can natively be connected to Tableau as well. So if you're a storage customer, you can use the storage layer to get everything into Tableau. Beyond that, beyond like a native similar integration that that we have for Power BI right now is not current. It's in the somewhere in the massive backlog that we have that the reporting destinations team has, but for now, storage is what we recommend if you want to get data into Tableau. So, quick update on that.
And I think as a guiding kind of advice, if you're interested in Tableau or anything else, please reach out to your nearest Supermetrics representative, or shout on the community, or get in touch with us through multiple channels and just let us know that you need it. We do track feedback very rigorously. So if there is enough demand for something like Power BI, Tableau, for example, we will build it. That's for sure. The question is just timeline-wise and in what order we do different things. But so that gets me to a very interesting area, which actually has come largely from feedback from our customers, which is data export. So this is Supermetrics kind of the, let's say, traditional representation of what we do, right? So on the bottom half, you have marketing platforms for paid media, e-commerce, first-party automation, whatever it could be. And through a data in or ETL process, we get it into Supermetrics so that we can pipe it to data analysis tools or data warehousing. Those have been the kind of two main use cases. Now, we've started already expanding the platform by putting stuff in the middle. So we like to call these data intelligence applications today. So data intelligence applications are things like data blending, custom fields. We're going to expand on the kind of width and breadth of applications over time. But the idea is that in a central manner, you can do different things to your data or do different things that help you work with your data in between getting it to data analysis platforms or to data warehousing. Now, on the right-hand side, which kind of starts making sense in a circular fashion here, is the concept of data out or reverse ETL, if you're of the more technical inclination. So we're getting data in from platforms. We're doing things to them in between. You can use data analysis or data warehousing, and then you'll get data out and send them back to the platform as well. This is kind of the rough concept behind it. So first, I want to talk about conversion data. So the topic of data export or getting data out from a platform, it's obviously a massive topic. There's thousands of different use cases, and there's thousands of different types of data that can be used throughout different platforms. But what we've actually started hearing a lot from both our customers and also from our advertising partners is that conversion data and getting conversion data from different platforms back to marketing platforms or advertising platforms is actually becoming a kind of huge headache due to global signal loss. Already with kind of cookie deprecation in Safari, we've already started seeing quite a lot of loss of signal. And Google has now pushed forward their first-party cookie deprecation twice. I can't remember, but a couple of times at least. But we all know that inevitably it's going to happen. And there's also other use cases why conversion data and uploading it back to platforms is beneficial. And there's a couple of key use cases for conversion data. The first one is better ad targeting. So when you run a campaign on Facebook ads, for example, if Facebook understands which of your customers actually converted and on what advertisement, they'll be able to do better targeting, and it'll unlock things like lookalike targeting, behavioral targeting, which will result in improved advertisement relevance, which then leads to better performance and higher ROI on the campaigns in general. Conversion data can obviously also be used for segmentation purposes. So who bought, who didn't buy, who bought 5 times, etc. And I think if you're in traditional retail or in e-commerce, the concept of conversion is quite clear. It's a purchase and it has a monetary value. Whereas when it comes to B2B measurement, for example, the segmentation kind of use cases are quite endless, actually. By segmenting and personalizing your message, obviously leads to better engagement, higher personalization rates, and through that, increased conversions. Now, the third kind of top-level use case for conversion data being used in other platforms is the concept of attribution, cross-channel attribution modeling. So just getting that data from multiple channels and understanding it will allow for accurate budget allocation, deeper marketing insights, and again, better ROI. We all love ROI, right? But these are just kind of the 3 top-level use cases that conversion data can help with when exporting from a platform. So briefly, just to explain this concept and how data in, data out in the concept of Supermetrics works. So on the data inside, we can get conversions from a wide variety of different sources. Web analytics is quite straightforward, depending on what you kind of measure as a conversion. When it comes to e-commerce, you have e-commerce platforms like Shopify or Magento. Again, the concept of conversion is quite clear. It's a transaction. But when it comes to more complicated sources or kind of more complicated B2B advertising, we get into the realm of CRM systems, these very, very complicated ERP systems that I mentioned earlier when we were talking about file import. And then obviously many people have neatly organized data already in a data warehouse, so that needs to be a source as well. But getting the data in from all of these services is key. And for that, the only part that you as a user would need to do is to identify what is a conversion that drives benefits for your business. When it comes to Supermetrics, you would just need to define which platform to get the data from and then where to send it. So that's really the step of uploading conversions. This has the power to enhance advertising across search engines, social media platforms, display networks, programmatic advertising, and even native and mobile. And as I mentioned earlier, this all leads to better ad targeting quite automatically. So as long as you start uploading the data, the targeting will get better. So there's no other steps in the first use case here. Now, when it comes to the two other ones, there's obviously more steps, but the targeting is quite straightforward. So again, I'll walk you through a quick prototype of how our conversion uploader will look like. So again, as I mentioned earlier, data export is the wider topic, whereas conversion uploader is the first problem that we're going to try to solve. So again, here I've landed on the Hub UI, and I go to a section called Conversion Uploader. Here I can just start with a new conversion upload, or I can check out the kind of use cases that we've templated. So again, 2-click done, but let's go and create a conversion upload. So we have two examples here. We have a Google Sheets. Obviously, Google Sheets is hyper flexible. As long as you can get the data into a spreadsheet, you can get it into Supermetrics, and again, you can upload it to ad platforms. But just for the sake of the example, I'll select HubSpot here. So HubSpot is a CRM, and there's a bunch of different things that we can get from HubSpot. One is form submissions, lead creation, purchase completion, and so forth. So then I need to select where I want to send it. Let's do Facebook Ads Conversion API. And here I need to define my accounts and pixels and environment and so forth. So I'm using a connection that I have live on Supermetrics. On HubSpot, I would need to select the portal. This step will most likely differ between platforms. So for example, if I want to get data from Facebook, I would most likely have to select my account that I want to get the data from, or the pixel that I want to get the data from. Whereas here on the Facebook Ads Conversion API, I need a connection, an ad account, and a pixel. So we'll now try to link data from the Supermetrics portal to this pixel in the Facebook environment. So what data do I want to upload? I can start from scratch and create a custom one. We've templated a couple of ones in this example. So if you want to continue with the form submissions example, here on the left-hand side, I can see my HubSpot data. If I do this, it automatically maps to the fields in Facebook Ads Conversion API. So for example, the subscription would be the event name, time registration email was something, I can't read it, is event time, and so forth. You'll see a data preview on the right-hand side, so you can see that the data you're getting from HubSpot is actually correct and valuable in the correct format and so forth. Now here I can easily add a bunch of fields. So let's assume we want to add value and currency, very important when it comes to conversion. You can either select the dynamic field from HubSpot or enter a static value. So just for the sake of example, let's add 87 as the static value. And for this one, let's grab a field called portal currency in HubSpot and map it to currency on Facebook. So at this point, we can see that there's a kind of refresh needed for the preview. Let's refresh that. And then you can see 87 USD and all the other fields are still the same. Now, in the prototype here, we don't yet show how you would interact with custom fields. So remember on file import, we were able to already map the data type, make some changes to the data. All of that will be here, but not in this prototype at this moment. It's always good practice to check filtering settings as well. So if I were to do this for Supermetrics, obviously I want to add a rule saying email does not contain supermetrics.com, because it doesn't provide me any value to know that Alex converted on this, since he's a colleague of mine. And yeah, that's pretty much it from the kind of configuration side of things. Next, we'll just give it a name, check that the summary is correct. And then we can still edit our upload. So it's now set at upload every day at 3 a.m. We can do every day or every week, depending on needs, right? I think every day is definitely recommended. And then I can also opt in to upload historical data during the first run. So we'll get the last 7 days from the source. And that's it. You're all set. Then we can start setting up another one for example, LinkedIn conversions. So we get that conversion data to all platforms. You can start seeing here that if you set this up in one platform, you'll actually get a single view of all of your kind of conversion pipelines. So you don't need to jump between different apps and services to figure out who is sending data where. And you can also see a kind of historical log of the runs under here. So if I want to check that this day's upload started and went through, I'll get a summary of how many rows and when this was created and when it was ended. So I could just make sure from this one view that all of my conversion data is uploaded as expected. And yeah, this isn't supposed to be super complicated. I'm always a little bit surprised, to be honest, how quickly we can burn through this prototype. But yeah, it is meant to be very quick and very easy. But yeah, jumping to, I think, our outro slides, right, Aleks?
Yeah, or maybe before we go to the outro slide, I think we can do at least Mandy's question here, because Mandy had a question that will or can conversion API support a link to BigQuery directly in the first step. I think at least from my point of view, the first step for us is the reason we're building conversion uploader inside Supermetrics is purposefully that you don't need to use a data warehouse to run a conversion upload. We want to make it, again, more accessible for maybe teams who might not have resources at their disposal to run a data warehouse. So we're really building it with the marketers in mind, and that's why Valter was talking there. That's built to be very easy to do, very easy to set up. But I don't know, Valter, do you know on the roadmap, is there a plan to add support for BigQuery in the future?
Yeah, so I think we like to work in a way where we get something in the hands of customers to validate it through beta first. So the first version that we're gonna have in place, most likely by end of July, will support the spreadsheet upload, and it'll most likely support Meta and LinkedIn as destinations. Now, in the immediate next step, we are planning to add the support for all of the connectors that we have in our portfolio, so you can get data directly from them, and also look at data warehousing. So when it comes to data warehousing, if we would have to select a platform to look at first, it would be BigQuery, hands down. So I'm not going to promise anything, but I would venture a guess that by end of year, that should be supported as a source. But don't hold me to that. It's not a promise. It's a guess.
Valter's mouth writing checks he can't keep, or making promises he can't keep. Good. Yeah. And in general, like with conversion APIs, I think the thing that really excites me as someone who has been working in marketing for quite some time now is that it puts the power back in the hands of the marketer, because normally we have relied on stuff like pixels and cookies and various other kind of applications to do the targeting for us. Whereas now, with these purpose-built conversion upload tools, like the one we looked at here, the power is back in our hands, and we kind of control the first-party data on our servers, and then tell what to use with the tracking platforms, which actually very likely will increase signal fidelity in the future. Right now, we're living through this weird stage where cookies are being deprecated, and a lot of this tracking is becoming more strict. But in the future, with proper setups and tools like this, signal fidelity very likely will increase. All right, then yeah, we can go to our outro. We still probably have a couple minutes here for Q&A, so feel free to keep dropping those into the Q&A section. But just wanted to give a call out at this stage that it was really you were great. Like I was writing. We have this on speaker chat here. I was writing that. Oh, it's such a nice audience. You guys have been great, and it's been fun to engage with you guys, and you've had great questions, and it was really fun to get to share all this with you. So thank you for joining. We will follow up with a bunch of information, the recordings, etc., on the community. So stay tuned on the community. Everything will be shared there. And just wanted to give you a call out that we will be hosting more of these kind of product-led sessions through the community in the upcoming months. The next one here is actually already booked for August 14th. It's going to be run by Ilka, one of our senior product managers, who's going to be running a panel discussion related to Looker Studio and how you can kind of build best-in-class dashboards in Looker Studio. So if you are a Looker Studio user, be sure to tune into that one. And me and Valter, or maybe me and some of our other product members, will be back probably roughly every quarter to do one of these kind of roundup sessions for you guys. So stay tuned for those as well. Good. I don't see. Oh, I see one question about the slide deck. That will we be sharing the slide deck? I believe we're going to be sharing the recording, at least for sure. The slide deck without the talk track might not make that much sense because you don't get the live demos, you don't get the walkthroughs. So remains to be seen. But we definitely will be sharing the recording that you'll have access to. 100%. But yeah, I don't see anything else in chat right now. If that's it, then I don't know, Valter, do you have any last words of wisdom for us? Any closing words?
No, I think just to elaborate on kind of your outro, I think stay tuned on the community. We're gonna start also announcing all of the newest updates there whenever we ship something. So you'll be able to stay up to date on the community, and we're also gonna start calling for more beta testers on the community as well. So yeah, just stay tuned. And from my side as well, really good session. It was great seeing a bunch of questions on the chat, a bunch of emojis as well. So we're apparently doing something slightly right. Always room to improve, but great to see.
Slightly right. All right. Well, if that's it, then thanks everybody again for tuning in, and we will see you all at the next one. Have a good rest of your days.